Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our live session today. My name is Larissa. I'm an event planner at Reactor, joining you from Brazil. Before we start, I have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional, and on topic. The session is being recorded and will be available to view on demand here on the Reactor YouTube channel within 48 hours. Keep an eye on the chat, we'll be dropping helpful links and checking for your questions. I will now turn it over to our speakers for today, so thank you all. Let's welcome here Brian and Josh.
Thanks, Larissa. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to our session live from Dublin. Today, we're going to be building an agent together. Okay, so if this is the first agent you've built with Microsoft Copilot, you're very welcome. And yes, we're going to provide, if you look at Josh's post there, he's provided a link to where you can download some of the build along material that you'll need to interact with us today. And we're hoping that by the end of the session, we've helped all of the participants and people who have joined to build their first agent. We'd love to know where you're joining from this morning or this afternoon, wherever it is in your area. And yeah, let's have a bit of fun building some agents. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to take you to the GitHub repository of where we've stored today's session material. Okay, share my screen. Right, so as Josh has shared the link, what we've got is our agent build along repository. Now this is full of great agent scenarios across different areas of the tech stack. So we've got some in Agent Builder, which we'll be building on today. We've got some from Copilot Studio. We've also got some for Foundry as well, or let's call it now Microsoft Foundry. And these are great for kind of getting hands-on. We cover different agent scenarios. So we look at industry scenarios and we also look at functional scenarios that you might have. So with that in mind, today we are going to focus on something that's relevant to most industries across the world. And we're going to focus on HR, okay? So today we're going to be building a HR policy assistant that's going to help us with our HR questions. And we're going to learn some of the fundamentals about Agent Builder and Microsoft AI. So if you're in GitHub and you see this, right? So if you just click the download button and save it off to somewhere that's easy for you to find, and make sure you also download the sample data, which is the employee handbook that we're going to use for today's session. So you can just click the download raw file and they should go to your downloads. Brilliant. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to go and navigate to Agent Builder. So for those of you using the web browser, you'll find it under Microsoft 365 Copilot. For those of you that want to use the desktop application, you can find it down here in the taskbar, or you can search for it using either the Windows tab or the search bar down the bottom. So you've got two options, one by the browser and one by the M365 Copilot app. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the left-hand side and we're going to click on New Agent. Okay. We'll just pause for a second and let everybody download the material and get their sample data down. Again, you can go to the browser and select m365.cloud.microsoft, or you can use the waffle here to find Copilot, or you can join using the Copilot app. So you've got a couple of choices there. Okay, so when you're on the landing page here, what we're going to do is we're going to click the skip button. And this is going to bring us to more advanced features for Agent Builder. Using the other option, you could build an agent using your own language. But today we want to look at some of the fundamentals that goes into building an agent, right? So we're going to use our material that we've downloaded from our GitHub site, right? So for anyone who's joined late, please follow the GitHub link and download from the Reactor series session. You'll find the HR Policy Assistant PDF, and you'll find the sample data as well. Okay, so once you've got that done, you'll find the instructions labeled really clearly. Okay, so you'll find the open the Copilot session, and then we're currently at the find the agent section, right? So now we're going to create a new agent, and we are going to name our agent HR Policy Assistant. Okay, so we're going to go up here and we're going to type in HR Policy Assistant. Okay, it's really good to have a clear name for your agent, because this may be your first agent that you're building, but within organizations, we see companies that have hundreds, even thousands of agents in some scenarios. So having a really clear name for your agent helps people understand exactly what it is that the agent does, okay? We can then have the description of the agent, again, equally as important, because this allows us to describe what it is that the agent is going to do. So we can see, I help employees find answers to HR and policy questions. So I'm just going to open my own copy of that because it'll help me just copy and paste. So I'm going to open with Microsoft Edge. Okay, sorry, let me go to downloads. And I'm going to open with, and I'm going to open with my browser Edge. So if you're following along, you can just simply copy and paste the description, right? So the agent will help employees find answers to HR and policy questions. Really straightforward instructions or a description. So for anybody that finds this agent within your library or within your organizations, they now have a clear usage title for the agent, but they also have a clear description, right? What is it that the agent does? So now people can understand there may be a couple of different HR policy agents at play within an organization. So having that description really is important. The next step we're going to do is put in instructions. So instructions are really important because they are basically the logic that underpins the agent. What is it that you want the agent to do? What are the guardrails for the agent? What are the kind of limitations of the agent, right? And what tone do you want it to use? And so everything that goes in here will dictate how the agent behaves in a lot of ways. So we're going to click across to our build along guide, and then we're going to copy and paste in our instructions. So you are a HR policy assistant, and you can insert your company name. You help employees understand their entitlements and company policies. And you can see now, right, we're starting to put limitations, right? Only answer questions based on the HR documents provided. That can be a really useful line because it helps prevent hallucination for agents. And it ensures that the agent only uses the grounded information. And you'll see that when we get to it and cover that off. So we're going to copy those instructions and we're going to paste them in here. Okay. If you didn't have your instructions and you were building your agent for the first time, you can use Copilot to help you build the instructions. You can say, look, I'm building a HR policy agent. I want it to do A, B, and C. And I want the guardrails to be X, Y, and Z. And Copilot will build you instructions that are easy to understand for the agent and put it into simple terms. Once you get it in here, so I'm going to say your HR for, I think it's Northwind is our company. You help employees understand their entitlements. So you have an option here, right? So you can ask Copilot to suggest improvements, right? What is it that We can improve with these instructions, right? So we can suggest instruction improvements, and we can send that to Copilot. And what Copilot will do now is it'll reason over the instructions that you've put in, and you can see it's asking me to add step-by-step response method and define boundary cases, right? We can say apply step-by-step method. Okay, and we should be able to then copy and paste in the new and improved instructions.
Right, I just want to touch on the auto in the top right of the models and what we can do with that.
Yeah, it's a good question, Josh, right? So depending on the agent, you may want the agent to give quick responses, right? That's perfectly satisfactory for that agent. But where an agent is doing a more complex task, you may want it to reason a bit deeper over the question and dig a bit deeper to surface the answer, right? So you do have the ability to hand that orchestration logic directly to the agent by using auto, or you can set it yourself and you can actually choose quick response or think deeper. For me, I'm going to leave it on auto because it allows the orchestration layer to decide what is the best approach based on the question.
Amazing, thank you.
You're welcome. So you can see now we've got our improved instructions. Any agents I build here at Microsoft in my day-to-day, I generally rely on Copilot to help me refine them and build them out. So it's great to have that built directly into Agent Builder. The next point we're going to focus on is knowledge, right? So knowledge is really important when it comes to the agent because that's essentially what it's grounded in. For those who have a Copilot license, you will see this is active. For those using the free Copilot chat license, you won't have the opportunity to upload knowledge just yet. There is a different step you can follow once the agent has been published that allows you to upload the sample HR documents directly to the agent for reasoning. But for now, if you have a full Copilot license, you can directly upload. So I'm going to add knowledge, and I'm going to add upload from device, and then I'm going to upload the handbook. All right. Once I've done that, you can see that the document is now preparing. Okay, that means that it's being indexed by the agent so that when you ask a question, there is indices there that help the agent quickly gather the information that's required for that particular question. You do have other options as well, right? So if you're using a Copilot license, you can ground the agent in specific knowledge within your business, right? And bring that work IQ so you can collect the likes of your OneDrive, your Outlook, your Teams. You can then use Copilot connectors as well if you've published those. And then you can also use web search. Now, for things like internal policies like HR, etc., I would advise against web search. I think it can lead to hallucination. And a lot of the information that's out there on the web often isn't fact-checked as well. So grounding it in factual knowledge sources that are published and monitored and controlled is a much better option than just allowing it to go to the web, especially for organizational use cases. This is fine for general knowledge, stuff that you're looking for that you need the web. But for internal use cases where you're using things like HR policy, you don't want to be pulling something from maybe the wrong jurisdiction or something that doesn't apply to your organization. Okay. We also have suggested prompts down here. Now, suggested prompts for those who are AI literate, right, it might seem like an additional step that you may not, why would I bother, right? But we often build agents within organizations and we want to make them as accessible as possible for everybody that works within the organization, right? So we can't assume AI literacy in a lot of cases. It's relevant. It's relatively new for a lot of people in a lot of industries. So what we try to do is make it as easy to use as possible. And you can do that by creating suggested prompts here, okay? So if we go back to our document, we can see we've got some suggested prompts, okay? How much maternity leave am I entitled to? A very important question. So we're going to copy and paste that in. Okay, how much leave am I entitled to? Can I carry over unused annual leave? And what is the remote working policy, right? So we can copy and paste all those in, and we can give it a heading like maternity leave, and we can paste in entitled to. We can put in remote work policy, and we can say, what is the remote working policy? And finally, we can put something in around, I think it was annual leave, wasn't it? Yeah. Annual leave.
Sorry, I'm not sure type now. Just say you can get very creative with this, right? So if we're looking at knowledge that Brian was talking about, you can connect that to, for example, your SharePoint site, wherever you get your data source from. So if you have a data source which changes, it was dynamic, you can connect to that data source, and that data source will change and update your agent as it goes along, right? So we're using a Word document here, a static document, but in some situations you might need to or want to use more dynamic sources to actually get that information and ground that information, right? And Brian touched on connectors as well. You could even connect it up to, connectors and dynamics and things like that, right? So it can get very, very creative, very powerful. It's just really a drop in the ocean, really, what we're showing with this.
Yeah, that's a great point, Josh. Look, exactly that. The document I've uploaded is static, it's point in time, right? So for a HR policy, that wouldn't make a lot of sense, right? Because often these documents are reviewed and refined and just controlled version and around this, right? So a SharePoint document library would be absolutely perfect for this. And then every time it's updated, the agent will get the latest version, right? So that's really, really important. As I said, without the Copilot license, you're kind of uploading snapshots of data in a moment in time, and you can't really benefit from the dynamic nature of storing documents directly within SharePoint, right? So it's a really, really good call out by Josh, and it's something that I would recommend. Is this is great for the example, but when you move on to more complex scenarios, always try and store your data somewhere like a OneDrive, or it's for other people within the business, maybe a SharePoint site as well. Thanks, Josh.
No worries.
Okay, so just to recap, right? So we've got our title, we've got our description in as well. We've got our step-by-step instructions, right? Really important. We also use Copilot to help us refine those instructions, and they update it automatically. We've added our knowledge source here as well, right? Which is really important. You can also click a setting here, right? So you can use people data, you can use or allow the agent to create images, and you can discourage model knowledge, right? So this is for more technical domains, and it's not something that's relevant to today. But just to know the options are there. And you can also suggest improvements with how you ground the knowledge. But thankfully, I had my own Josh here to help me with that piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click create. Okay, so you can see our agent was created successfully. I hope your agent was created too. So with that, we're going to click Start Chat. Okay. We need to click on our HR policy agent, make sure it loads up. Okay. So we've got our HR policy agent. We can see who it was created by. We also see our suggested prompts down here as well, the likes of what we typed in, so maternity leave, the remote work policy, and annual leave carryover. You'll also want to point you to something important up here in the top right-hand corner, and this is the enterprise data protection piece, okay? So this basically is assurances from Microsoft that we don't use your data to train our LLMs. Your data is encrypted both at transit and at rest. And it just gives you the assurance that basically everything that happens remains within your tenant, within the boundary of your tenant, right? So really important in this day and age that when you put prompts or information into an agent or an AI tool, that you can be guaranteed that that information isn't being used to train large language models. So whether it's you're using our tool here today, Agent Builder or Copilot Studio or Microsoft Foundry, or if you're using third-party tools, familiarize yourself with the data protection commitment and be sure that's the right fit for your organization. So moving on to testing our agent, right? So we're going to see actually what is the quality of the answer, right? So we're going to click maternity leave, and we're going to have it search the policy document. Okay, so you can see, right, we've got a reasonably quick answer. You can see that it's referencing the handbook that we uploaded. If you wanted to go off and fact check the agent's answer, you could click on this link, follow through and learn a bit more about that section, okay? You can see at each point you get a reference to the information shared by the agent, and this allows you to go again, because look, we should never assume that the information given by AI is 100% correct, and we should always do the validation piece to make sure actually is what it's saying correct, right? So it's an easy click to go off and find that reference point that the agent has come back with, or just even familiarize yourself with the source to which the agent has referring to in this. Do we have any questions in the chat at the minute, Josh? Or
yeah, we've got one. So would the agent give you a reference to what specific files it's based, and will it base answers on those files? So does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think we're answering that right now, actually, which is great. So as I said, if I click here and I click on the link, right, it'll pull up the file, right, the employee handbook, and then I can navigate to where that is within the handbook. You can see it's brought up maternity leave entitlement, so we're able to see exactly what it is that's referring to. Okay, really, really important with AI, okay? Even the best built agents, there is always the risk of hallucination, right? We try to minimize that, and I think we're closing the window on that every time, but you still have to do the validation piece. It's still requirement for, as we say, human in the loop, right? Making sure that everything that's happening is happening in the right and most accurate way possible.
Yeah, exactly that. It's grounded right in that information that Brian's showing you. So, and we force it to follow those guardrails in those instructions, right? And again, that's really important, right? We want that information to be accurate. We don't want to have that level of creativity that we might want with other agents, because this is policy information. We want to know how much maternity leave we have, right? So you need to be very specific.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Josh. So you can dig a bit deeper. What if I want to return early, right? We can see the agent will actually put suggested prompts in to help the person continue the conversation. Again, back to what I said about making sure that anything you build within your organization is accessible and that people can find it easily, and that when they do find it and they begin interacting with it, that it's just really simple to use, right? As I said, there's going to be varying levels of AI literacy. It's true here at Microsoft as well, right? We've got some teams that are really advanced and build really advanced projects. And then we've got departments that are maybe a little earlier on in their AI journey, right? So anything we build internally, we have to assume the lowest level of AI literacy, just to make sure that's a good experience for everybody that's using it as well. You also have the ability here to give feedback. So if you feel like maybe it wasn't accurate and you didn't like something, You can submit feedback to Microsoft to let them know, actually, this hallucinated a bit, or what it's referred to here is entirely incorrect. And that helps the engineering team in the back end understand what it is that's going wrong, and they can adjust and fix it. So it's a really quick way to provide feedback on the performance of an agent as well. You also have the ability to schedule prompts. So, for example, taking another agent use case, if you had a personal assistant agent that was summarizing your emails in the morning, you can schedule the prompt to happen every morning at 9 a.m. So when you hit your desk at 9 a.m., your agent will already have your email summarized and prepared and giving you your priorities for the day ahead. So really, really useful to be able to schedule prompts and responses as well. You then have the ability to export something to Word. So say, for example, you wanted to refer to the handbook, you were talking to your manager about leave, and there was a misunderstanding about how much leave or maternity leave was entitled to, whatever the case may be. You can export this directly to Word as a document and then send it on in an email, or you can simply just copy the text out and bring it elsewhere and send it on to your manager. For example, if that HR document is linked somewhere else, they'll also have a reference to go and check the sources there as well.
Yeah, and I'll just jump on top of that. I just want you guys to think about the ways in which you can be creative with this. For example, imagine you're teaching new people that are joining, your HR department about the HR policies, right? You could get Copilot to turn that into a whole teaching schedule for these new employees, into a deck, something like that, right? You can pull that information and reform it in different ways. So very, very powerful what you can do with that. You can create infographics as well with that. Very, very powerful.
So we've seen organizations build entire starter, mover, lever processes based on a combination of agents, right? Agents are fantastic, but again, not every single thing has to be an agent. There's also a place for the likes of workflows and Power Automate and the different tools that are available within the Microsoft stack. Yeah, and they combine those technologies to build an entire onboarding process for people moving internally within an organization. And then what happens when people leave organizations and deleting content or information relating to that person, or wherever the case may be, right? So this is a very kind of simple introduction today, but the possibilities are almost endless in how you can kind of put this together and what you can kind of build. So if you did get to the point where you were thinking, this agent is great and I want to kind of move this on, there is an ability to share it with the rest of the organization. So you can share org-wide, okay, company policy allowing. You can send that on, or you can share it directly with somebody. So you've come up with a great idea. What we would kind of expect within organizations is that they have a framework to allow these great ideas that people come up with agents, to allow them to progress to where the whole entire organization can benefit, right? So you can make it org-wide sharing as well, or you can, as I said, you can just copy out the link. Okay, there is an option coming here. I think it's moved, okay, but it basically allows you to move the agent directly from Agent Builder to Copilot Studio, right? So if you've put all this work into building a really good agent in Agent Builder, and you want to take it to the next level and send it to the likes of Copilot Studio, which is the next part of our follow-on section from this one, right? It's a bit more low-code development, but you're able to take your project in Agent Builder and move it directly across to Copilot Studio, open it up, and then build additional capabilities on top of that, right? Obviously, Copilot Studio is a bit more advanced than Agent Builder, but Agent Builder is a great place to get started with any ideas that you have, right? So we're just going to do some of our suggested prompts as well. Okay, so let me see. We'll take this one. Does the company have an employee assistance program? Let's see. My copy and pasting skills today are not great. I'll copy them all in. and we can eliminate the other ones. Right, so let's go with how do I report a sick day? Right, you can test this just to kind of figure out how accurate it is. But when you get to the likes of Copilot Studio, there is a kind of deep evaluation tool that allows you to really dig into how the agent performs. So it will actually give the agent, say, for example, 100 sample questions, and it will score its performance based on its answers, right? So it gives you a good idea before you send this org-wide how the agent actually performs in reality, right? How accurate is it? What needs refinement? And you will also get feedback from the users that will tell you, you know, whether it's through abandoned sessions or not getting to basically the solution they like, how well the agent is performing, right? So we've got really advanced metrics around agents to kind of give you an idea of how efficient and accurate agents are. Again, right, we're seeing really good detail from the agent. Again, we can click, go back and see if it does refer to a specific area of the document, and we can check here to see exactly where it is in the document. Okay. So again, the person will have the ability to choose whether it's a quick response or think deeper, but then you'll also have the ability to choose from different models as well. So for example, this agent is using the GPT model, right? But when you start to branch out into other areas like Copilot Studio or Copilot itself, Microsoft have basically given customers the opportunity to choose which models they choose to use in the flow of work. So basically, we're given model autonomy to our customers. So for example, you could use an Anthropic model with Copilot. You could use a GPT model. If you go to Copilot Studio, you can avail of the likes of XAI, Grok, GPT, Anthropic. Go to Foundry, Microsoft Foundry, you've got over 1,300 different models you can choose from in there, right? So what we're kind of doing is allowing the customer to choose, because if you work with a third-party AI tool, and there's some fantastic third-party AI tools out there, right, that do great work, but the challenge is if the commercials change with that tool or the technical roadmap changes. So for example, GPT would have been the top model 2 years ago. It's still producing really great models, and we maybe wouldn't have been as aware of what Anthropic were doing, right? So Anthropic kind of came through in the last 12 to 18 months, and we've seen a lot from Anthropic. Who will be the leader in 18 months' time, in 24 months' time? If another model comes out and is at the kind of peak of performance and innovation, can you pivot? Can you move within your third-party tool to take advantage of maybe cheaper pricing or a more advanced technical roadmap? With Microsoft, changing that model is as simple as a click of a button, right? Whether it's in Agent Builder or it's in Copilot Studio, you basically go in and you can swap out the model for a different model, right? So you've got the ability to choose, and you've also got an exit strategy from a provider if it doesn't make sense anymore, and you can switch it out and choose something different.
Exactly that. I think it's very interesting as well how we built this agent from scratch, because I think the stigma behind agents, they think it's quite complicated and very difficult to build, but we were able to do this in 34 minutes and counting, right? So it's very, very, very easy, very simple to do, and it's not as complicated as what people think about, right, when they think about agents in general.
Yeah, great point, Josh. Look, we're making this as accessible as possible for people, right? So, but again, there needs to be guardrails. So like we've got our tool Agent 365 that helps you see, observe, and monitor agents that work within your organization. And I can give a quick view of that, right? So within agents in the admin center, if you go to all agents, right? You can see all agents at play within your organization, right? And with Agent 365, you can then take actions against that agent. So, for example, you can apply some security policies, you can view activity, but it allows you to control the agent. But you can block, for example, a specific agent. So if the agent I created was rogue and the admin seen it, they can come in here and they can click the block button to make sure it doesn't happen. They can also control the identity, they can see the instructions, the environment in which it's been built, literally anything about that agent and how it's performing, right? So really, really great tool to complement agent building and to make sure that agent building is happening in a safe, secure, and responsible way within your organization.
Exactly that. Just a few gotcha questions that might come up that we experience is when you put in your prompt of this agent, why does the prompt you put in bring a response different to the first time you put it in? So why is it 2 responses? And who they will answer that is the fact that with the model that it uses, the LLM, it's non-deterministic. So as a result of that, 2 answers won't be exactly the same. They'll be similar, as in 1 + 1 will still equal 2, but the way it answers it will be different, but the answer will still be correct, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And look, that's a good point, Josh. And you'll see with the likes of Copilot Studio as you move into the next session, like for me, if agents are too deterministic, are they really AI, right? The AI component for me is empowering the agent to decide on the best path forward. What is, if it meets a blocker, it should be able to decide what the next step is. If you've already outlined every single kind of possibility with the agent and been super deterministic, you've probably built a workflow with an agent overlay, right? So for me, when I build agents, I absolutely test and evaluate, but I'm not really super granular about once the response is correct and is referring to the right part of the document, however it phrases that, it can phrase it in 2 different ways, and I'm okay with that. But once it's able to understand the best path forward and can make the right decision, then for me, that's what AI is all about, right? It's the AI component of the agent deciding what the best path forward is. And you'll see we would have had a lot of kind of focus on topics early on with Copilot Studio, and we can cover that when we get into it. But again, for me, if it's too deterministic, you're probably better off building a workflow, and we'll probably have more success with a workflow than you would with an agent. Have we any other questions, Josh?
No more questions in the chat. No. If there are any questions, do feel free to drop them in. We'll answer them.
Yeah. And look, as I said, this is a very simple simplistic scenario, right? HR policy agent will apply to a lot of organizations because they've all got similar functions, HR, sales, wherever the case may be. If you want to kind of try your hand at another agent, or you want to move into more complex scenarios, okay, you do have the ability to use the GitHub repository that I've shared, and we'll make that available to anyone who's joined. You can go there and you can kind of find other scenarios that you can build in Agent Builder or Copilot Studio, or if you're a kind of pro code dev and you want to get into the Microsoft Foundry side of things, right? As I said, these guides are built to make it as easy to follow along as possible. And we appreciate your feedback within GitHub. It helps us improve these, right? Again, really simple step-by-step process in how to build the agent itself. So just one thing I wanted to finish on before we leave today on the Reactor agent was one of the things down the bottom, right? When would you use an agent versus why not just use Copilot for everything, right? And it's often a question we would get. For me, you use an agent when you want the context to remain permanent, right? So when you don't want to have to build the same prompt every time you want to find out that answer to a question, right? So for me, an agent captures the context, captures the specific knowledge source you want to focus on, and basically narrows the lens around the data within your organization, keeps the context focused, and make sure that you're getting as accurate an answer as possible, right? If you're using Copilot, which is quite broad and it's great for general questions and figure out stuff, but if you've got a repeat scenario and you think it could benefit you day to day and it could benefit someone else in the organization, then that's a great opportunity to use an agent, right? You've got the context captured, you've got the audience captured, you've got the knowledge captured, and you've kind of tied it all up in a nice package. And yeah, it's easy for people to find and use. But yeah, please get hands-on, be curious, build out the various different agent scenarios. You can find myself and Josh on LinkedIn if you have any questions. We'd be really happy to help guide you. And yeah, let us know what you think of this session, what you think of the collateral we've shared as well. And we hope to see you in the next iteration, which will be a bit more advanced as we move into Copilot Studio. We'll look at low-code scenarios, and we'll get more hands-on with tools and capabilities and knowledge, and introduce something new that's kind of come over the last few months, which is skills, which is really exciting. And yeah, loads to talk about over the coming weeks. So please do join the follow-on sessions. And I'll just pass it. Anything from you, Josh, before we wrap up?
No, nothing for me. It'll be interesting to know how you guys got on. Again, do let us know. We'll probably put our LinkedIn profiles in the chat so you guys can message us. But it'd be good to know how you got on with that. Go on, teach other people, teach people in your organizations, friends, families to use this, as it isn't that complicated, really. As you've seen, it's really, really quite simple.
Yeah, brilliant. Josh, thanks a million. Thanks everyone for joining, and we hope to see you again soon.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Brian. Thank you all for joining our session. We are always looking to improve your experience. So if you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find the link to our survey on the screen or in the chat. And we'll see you on the next one.